صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قال رب انصرني بما كذبون. فأوحينا إليه أن اصنع الفلك بأعيننا ووحينا فإذا جاء أمرنا وفارت النور فاسلك فيها من كل زوجين اثنين ولك إلا من سبق عليه القول منهم ولا تخاطبني في الذين ظلموا إنهم مغرقون. فإذا استويت أنت ومن معك على الفلك فقل الحمد لله الذي نجانا من القوم الظالمين. وقل رب أنزلني منزلا مباركا وأنت خير المنزلين. إن في ذلك لآيات وإنا كنا لمبتلين. ثم أنشأنا من بعدهم قرنا آخرين فأرسلنا فيهم رسولا منهم أن اعبدوا الله ما لكم من إله غيره أفلا تتقون. وقال الملأ من قومه الذين كفروا وكذبوا بلقاء الآخرة وأترفناهم في الحياة الدنيا ما هذا إلا بشر مثلكم يأكل مما تأكلون منه ويشرب مما تشربون. ولئن أطعتم بشرا مثلكم إنكم إذا لخاسرون. أيعدكم أنكم إذا متم وكنتم ترابا وعظاما أنكم مخرجون. صدق الله العلي العظيم.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. جزاك الله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
बारे दीगर सलावात।
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
बावाले बुलंद नारे सलावत।
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمद.
मसीह हज़रत अली अकबर अलैहिस्सलाम। ला रहा हूँ मैं लाशे अकबर, उम्मे लैला संभाल ज़ैनब को, ला रहा हूँ मैं लाशे अकबर, उम्मे लैला संभाल ज़ैनब को। बोले होंगे हुसैन ये रोके, उम्मे लैला संभाल ज़ैनब को। नौजवान लाश है ज़ईफ़ी है, मेरी नजरों से देख मंज़र को, कैसे हम शीर को संभालूंगा, मैं संभाले हुए हूँ अकबर को। तेरा एहसान होगा ये मुझ पर, उम्मे लैला संभाल ज़ैनब को। इसके सीने से कह के नाम अली, मैंने बरछी अभी निकाली है, इम्तिहा दे चुकी मेरी गुर्बत, अब तेरी बेकसी की बारी है। तू भी इस वक्त या अली कह गई, उम्मे लैला संभाल ज़ैनब को। दो नगीने थे इसकी झोली में, दोनों अकबर पे कर दिए सदका। सब्र ऐसा के अपने बेटों पर मैंने रोते इसे नहीं देखा है, मगर अब ये लाश अकबर से छुप छुप के आहें भरती है। मैं समझता हूँ मादरे अकबर तेरी ममता पे जो गुजरती है। रख के अपने कलेजे पर पत्थर उम्मे लैला संभाल ज़ैनब को। कैसे लाशे जवां उठाए हूँ एड़ियाँ खत कैसे लाशे जवां उठाए हूँ एड़िया खत बनाती जाती हैं। उन निशानों को पीछे पीछे मेरे अम्मा ज़हरा मिटाती जाती हैं। उसकी नजरें न देखे ये मंजर उम्मे लैला संभाल ज़ैनब को। नौजवान लाश है ज़ईफ़ी है मेरी नजरों से देख मंज़र को। कैसे हम शीर को संभालूंगा मैं संभाले हुए हूँ अकबर को। तेरा एहसान होगा ये मुझ पर उम्मे लैला संभाल ज़ैनब को। है तकल्लुम वो शाम कूफा का तय हुआ होगा इस तरफ से सफर। अम्मा ज़ैनब संभालना माँ को और होगा हुसैन के लब पर उम्मे लैला संभाल ज़ैनब को। ला रहा हूँ मैं लाशे अकबर उम्मे लैला संभाल ज़ैनब को।
अल्लाहुम्मा सल्ली अला मुहम्मद व आले मुहम्मद। जज़ाकल्लाह। अल्लाहुम्मा सल्ली अला मुहम्मद व आले मुहम्मद।
We have one student today. Ahmed is going to deliver speech today.
Salam everyone. Wahab ibn Abdullah had just got married and was returning to his hometown with his mother and the newly wed bride. Passing through Karbala, they found a camp pitched on one side and a large army poised against the few in those tents. Wahab found out that Imam Hussein alayhi salam had been surrounded on all sides by Yazid army. Yazid army were insisting on Imam Hussein alayhi salam either to accept Yazid leadership or to die. At their hands, Wahab carried news to his wife and mother. When she was informed by Wahab that Imam Hussein alayhi salam with a few faithful followers was facing big army of Yazid, she asked her son to hurry to aid Imam Hussein alayhi salam. All three of them came over to Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and the mother asked Imam Hussein alayhi salam to let Wahab join him. When Imam Hussein alayhi salam learned that Wahab had got married only a couple of days before, he insisted that Wahab must leave him in safety with his wife and mother. Wahab, a brave son of a brave mother, would not agree to this. O Imam, Wahab said with his head bowed, how is it possible for me to leave you and your dear ones in this condition? If I leave you and go away, I have not done my duty. Imam Hussein alayhi salam allowed Wahab to join his camp. Wahab fought bravely on the day of Ashura. His mother kept encouraging him from the camp until Wahab was martyred. Wahab's wife went to his side, wiping off the blood from his face. Shem saw her and ordered his slave to kill her. Wahab's wife was the only woman martyr of Karbala. Salawat.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد.
Good job. Ahmed, very good.
Good job. Good job.
I'll request Dr. Ali Ejaz to please come and say Marcia and then Ali Zaki. For Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad Salawat.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد.
I know the time is short, so I'm going to make it a short one. बोली बानों ढूंढने जाऊं तुम्हें दिलबर कहाँ बोली बानों ढूंढने जाऊं तुम्हें दिलबर कहाँ रूठ के माँ से गए हो अली असगर कहाँ बोली बानू ढूंढने ले गए थे शाह तो पानी पिलाने के लिए इस अंधेरे बन में सौ पाए तुम्हें दिलबर कहाँ बोली बानू ढूंढने है अंधेरी रात और सुनसान जंगल मेरे लाल ढूंढेगी मार तुमको पाएगी मादर कहाँ बोली बानू ढूंढने खाली झूला देख कर सुगरा ये पूछेगी जरूर रह गया मेरा मैं जबी असगर कहाँ दे दिया बानों ने हर माँ को मुजाहिद एक सबक वरना हम बेटे गौर बोली बानू ढूंढने सलावत
अल्लाहुम्मा सल्ली अला मोहम्मद व आले मोहम्मद। जज़ाकल्लाह, जज़ाकल्लाह।
Just an announcement, there will be Duai Khumel today after the program also. I will ask Abi Zaki to please come and offer mercy. Salawat.
अल्लाहुम्मा सल्ली अला मोहम्मद व आले मोहम्मद।
إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. السلام عليك يا رسول الله والسلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله. عبست وجوه القوم والخوف، عبست وجوه القوم خوف الموت، والعباس فيهم ضاحك متبسم. قلب اليمين على الشمال وغاص في الأوساط يحصد للرؤوس ويحطم بطل تورث من أبيه شجاعة فيها ألوف بني الضلالة ترغب حام الضعينة أين منه ربيعة أم أين من علي أبي مكدم بطل إذا ركب المطام خلته جبلا أشم يخف فيه مطهم قسما بصارمي الصقيل وإنني في غير صاعقة السماء لا أقسم لولا القضاء لمحى الوجود بسيفه والله يقضي ما يشاء ويحكم طفحت لك جموع هبت تاره نعمين من عود الفحل شنياره قطعة ويمينه يا وسف ويساره والجود ويلي أسهام مصابا حتى إذا ما وقع العباس عليه السلام تعنى الحسين تعنى من الخيم للعلقم حسين يصيح بالصوت يا عضيد وقعت وين بعد ما اشوف دربي يا ضي العين علي الكون كل من الليل أظلم يا حسين شلون الولي يا حسين خليته زينب عليه السلام تقول له شلون الولي يا حسين خليته فوق الشريعة يعالج المنية بالله تقول لي ايش قال يا اخويا بوصيته ما مر علي باله يا ابو علي يذكرني وقع العباس بالحومة منظر آخر ونسألكم الدعاء وقع عباس بالحومة ولأن حرمة اجت يمه تخيل معي هذا الموقف وقع عباس بالحومة ولأن حرمة اجت يمه تنادي والقلب داير وتمسح بالوجه دمه تقل له والقلب عليك يا ولدي رفعت الراس وين المرهف وجوده وين الرايه وين الطاس اشهد يا ضوى عيني انت ولادي يا عباس انا امك يا بعد امك وين اليمنى واليسرى ام البنين انتي قالت امك الزهراء
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. جزاك الله.
I would request Momin to come forward because other Momin, when they come, they can have seat in the back. If you can recite Noha in any language, Persian, especially Arabic, please let us know. Let me know, or I'll put a sign-out sheet outside in next few days, tomorrow, inshallah, this weekend, even tonight. Let us know. We encourage everybody to please come and recite and participate, especially if you are, English. If you can do English, children will understand too. So that's one. Inshallah, we have some more announcements about water pump and blood drive. So I'll do that after the majlis, so give me 2 minutes after the majlis before Madam so that I can make an announcement, from the board they want us to. Is that okay?
I'll do it, say it now and then repeat it.
Okay. Yeah, so Maulana said, maybe repeat it afterwards. So briefly, we have been for last few years collecting money and donations for water pump in underserved areas in Muslim countries. Brother Ali Rizvi, Dr. Ijaz Rizvi, he has been coordinating very nicely. He has shown us the pictures are outside, when we make pumps, and the pumps have the name of Imam Hussein written on it. And so people, whether they are Shia, non-Shia, they go and come and, get clean water. And this is, it reminds them about the thirst of Imam Hussein. And, introduces them, and they find out, who is Hussein. So I think this is one of the way we can do tabligh. So we are going to collect money again, mashallah, from all of you. We have very good last year, and we were able to make multiple pumps there, mashallah, and people are having clean water. So we have put a donation box outside there. It says water pump. So if you can just put your money, it doesn't have to be too much, whatever you have, 50, 100, 20, 10, whatever. Inshallah, do that one. Secondly, blood drive. I announced yesterday also we have 32 slots for blood drive. Until last year, we would always fill up, all 32 slots filled. So far, we have only filled 12 slots. So I have 20 open slots for this Friday. So please, participate in that. This is a way where we can tell our community, Brecksville community, Cleveland, we get publicity that, on the name of Hussein, the Muslims are donating blood, and that's why we kind of, become close to them. Another way of kind of bringing ourselves to the public eyes. Last one is donation for the center itself. This center runs with your own, donations. We have finances, the lights, the electricity, everything needs your help. So I strongly encourage each one of you, even if you donate $1, $10, $20, whatever you have, please start donating from today. We have membership forms outside. If you fill the membership form, we will give you membership for next year also, So start it and then make a habit of putting your bank account per month, give us $25 per month, so that way we can plan ahead. We have planned, we want to expand this or get a new masjid, and the running of this present masjid, make programs better. So I please request you, even what you have, start donating from today. You have 2-3 more days, bring your checks, give it to one of our board of members, Dr. Faizi, Asar, myself, Sorabi. And try to tell us, if you want to link it with your bank account, we can monthly donation, that will be really encouraged. Without further ado, I'll ask Maulana to come to the member with 3 of your loudest salawat.
Turn off the cell phone. Turn off the
Please turn off your cell phone, because downstairs in basement we have very good programs going on for children and they need internet access. So please turn off your cell phone and do not connect with Wi-Fi, please, I request. Salawat.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد.
People can move forward. Just please move forward a bit more.
नारे तकबीर, नारे रिसालत, नारे हैदरी.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. فقد قال الله الحكيم في محكم كتابه أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ومن يطع الله والرسول فأولئك مع الذين أنعم الله عليهم من النبيين والصديقين والشهداء والصالحين وحسن أولئك رفيقا. And whoever obeys Allah and the Messenger, those will be with the ones upon whom Allah has bestowed favor of the prophets, the steadfast affirmers of truth, the murderers, and the righteous and excellent are those as companions. Chapter 4, verse 69, Surah An-Nisa, Ayah 69. Recite the second salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Let's recite another one on the honor of our Imam Zaman, Sahib al-Asr wal Zaman.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
And it is the night of Friday, so a lot of people are actually looking out for all of your prayers and all of your salawats. So let's remember every single one of those marhumin and marhumat and all of your beloved past ones by reciting a loud salawat followed by Surah Al-Fatiha.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Dear brothers and sisters, respected scholars, Jami'an Salamun Alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.
I can ask one more time to recite a fifth salawat, but not just a salawat, but actually make it a physical salawat by coming forward at least one step, so it will be space for those who will actually come towards the end of the majlis. This salawat sounded like a month of Ramadan, so when you get closer to iftar.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
talking about a couple different topics, all related in a chain series of discussions. We started about the barakah and the blessings of attending the majalis of Abu Abdullah Hussein. We talked about the etiquettes of like how should we actually go and attend the majalis, right? Then we got to this whole point that this whole purpose of like, for example, doing different rituals, doing different deeds within our religion. What are all of this for? Because we know these deeds by themselves are the mean for a greater purpose. Then I mentioned this one that based on the Quranic verses, that Allah Almighty calls the life as quote unquote is called living in this earth, a living of the dead. Meaning that there is this whole new second set of living, which is called as or referred to as hayatan tayyibah. This superior life, this pure life, this life that is actually and truly is the meaning of living. Versus the living that we call it in our like normal terms is referred to as just being, as just existing, as just being there and like benefiting from the mundane world, nothing more. So it is just going for that surface. It is just going for that exterior, benefits that we see in this life. So this life, if you look at it like this, the Quran calls it a dead life. It doesn't call it as actually being alive. It calls upon all of us. It says, you have to make this move. You have to, get past beyond this exterior life, and you have to go within it. You have to find out that what makes this life and changes and transforms it to this superior life, which is called as hayatan tayyibah. So we talked about this, and we mentioned that the very first step to actually make this move is to contemplate, is to think, is to have this self-reflection on what the biggest one, the easiest one, the closest one to every person is themselves, their own soul, their nafs, right? And we mentioned why the nafs, why not other stuff. Of course, there are different means, but as I mentioned, nafs is the most closest one to every single one of us, because everybody can actually understand their own nafs if they just take one moment, and this is a very simple exercise. Just close your eyes and imagine none of your senses works. So you cannot see, you cannot hear, you cannot smell, you cannot walk, you have absolutely no senses. What do you find at the end? There is some form of existence. Something is there. It cannot do anything, right? Because it doesn't have any of the senses, it doesn't have any of the faculties, it doesn't have the energy, for example. But there is something there that is, we know that is alive, right? So that's the very basic point, that's the entry point of actually getting to know, yourself a little bit better. Of what am I consist of, right? What am I consist, of, right? It's not only the, as I meant, we're going back again, it's not only the physical body, but it has this whole spiritual side to it, that spiritual side is what actually gives the meaning to this life. Makes the life, hayatan tayyibah. Makes the current life that we have to this superior life, right? It changes everything, it gives meanings to it. So once you gain that meaning, is that when you actually are living based on the ayahs of the Quran. So the first step was to contemplate on the nafs. And we start talking about it. The very first thing that you come up with is the topic of reality versus unreality, or truth versus false, haqq and batil, right? We talked about this as well. What are the signs of haqq? How to actually distinguish haqq from batil, right? And then we talked about how people actually encounter haqq, right? So when people come up and when they acknowledge haqq, they get divided to 3 groups. The first group, they accept it, they obey it. The second group, they reject it and they actually take a stand against it. And the third group, which usually consists of the majority, is what? Those who acknowledge it, but they decide to be neutral. They say, I don't want to follow it, nor I would reject it, right? So this were what we had previously talked. And we continue the discussions. We reach this point that Allah Almighty mentions in the Quran, وَمَنْ يُطِعِ اللَّهَ وَالرَّسُولَ فَأُولَٰئِكَ مَعَ الَّذِينَ أَنْعَمَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِمْ. If I ask this question from every single my dear brother and sister in this majlis, that if you get one prayer called, right, what would that be? And none of these smarty prayers that I'm going to ask Allah Almighty to grant all of my prayers. No, none of those. So put those aside. Imagine if you're being granted to ask for one thing, what would that be, right? Would it be like heaven? Would it be, I don't know, like mercy on the past ones? Would it be
forgiveness of sins?
Forgiveness of the sins? Would it be
true guidance?
true guidance? Would it be What else? Let me hear some from you guys.
Be
That-
follower. Be follower.
Be
of
follower of the Imam. What else?
the Imam.
Let me give you one prayer. What about being a companion? Being always, right? Always with the best people. And best people, I mean what? For example, the Holy Prophet of Islam. Who is the best people? Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib. What about Imam al-Hassan and Imam al-Hussein alayhim and continue chain all the way to the 14 infallibles. What about this one? Right? So if you want this companionship, you want to be always with them, right? As if like you are living with them, you are with them 24/7. There is no like separation between you and them, right? If you put this as the objective, this is what we want. Oh Allah, on this blessed nights, this is what we want to ask for you to actually grant us, right? All of this stuff actually comes with it in a sense, right? So basically, if you're with the goods, you're going to become good. Once you become good, your sins will be forgiven, right? All of the guidance will be there for you. Your heaven will be sort of like guaranteed, but there is no guarantee until the end, right? But you're on the right path, basically. So if this is what we want, the Allah Almighty has given you the answer, right? What does He say? وَمَنْ يُطِعِ اللَّهَ وَالرَّسُولَ فَأُولَٰئِكَ مَعَ الَّذِينَ أَنْعَمَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِمْ مِنَ النَّبِيِّينَ وَالصِّدِّيقِينَ وَالشُّهَدَاءِ وَالصَّالِحِينَ, which we talked about this 4 groups that Allah Almighty mentions in this holy ayah, right? He says if you want to like be a companion, right, go with this 4 different types of people. Number 1, the highest one, the prophets, right? Number 2, the Siddiqeen, right? Number 3, Shuhada, and number 4, Salihin. If you want to be with them, same level we're talking about, like companionship. It's the same. Ma'a, right? Ma'a is like when 2 things are going along each other, side by side, right? Imagine I'm walking with somebody, we're going shoulder by shoulder. This is what we call Ma'a, meaning together, right? So Allah Almighty is saying, if you wanted to be, go like shoulder by shoulder to who? With who? Number 1 with the prophets, number 2 with Siddiqeen, with Shuhada and Salihin, right? What do you have to do? Man yut'a Allah wa Rasul. Comes the topic of ita'ah, comes the topic of obedience, right? The obedience of Allah and His Prophet. So from here we actually take this conclusion that the obedience of the Prophet becomes the obedience of Allah Almighty. There's no difference, right? So that's why we link these 2 together. And of course when we say obedience of the Holy Prophet of Islam, then it comes the topic of his successorship, his vicegerentity, right? Whoever is in charge after him. So the obedience of them will be actually followed the same line all the way back to the Holy Prophet, to Allah Almighty, right? And plus, the ayah actually tells us even more. It says even those Siddiqeen that you talk about, based on the riwayas that we have, the perfect example of a Siddiq is Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib. And I mentioned this one when we have these names in the Quran. For example, Siddiq, Nabi, Shaheed, right? In the terms of the Quranic terms, when we use a name, we say if the name comes with its meaning. And explain more. For example, my name is Ihsan, right? Or people have different names, right? Ihsan has, for example, the meaning of someone who does favors, right? So I could just drag this name by myself, meaning I just have this name on my, for example, birth certificate. Or in reality, I could actually have this as part of my characteristics as well. So when the name matches the personality, right? That's when we actually call it a real name in the Islamic teachings. Everything else beside that, it's not actually a name, it's just surface, right? So when we call ourselves mu'min, right, comes the same thing. It's not just the title that we, carry on. No, it has to come up with that belief in the heart. Otherwise, it's just the surface. So when you talk about the ayahs of the Quran, you have to pay attention. When it says Nabi, when it says Siddiq, it is talking with the, in a name that comes with its meaning. So when it says Amir al-Mu'mineen is a perfect example of a Siddiq, that means when you look at any sort of actions, any sort of words, any sort of way of living of Amir al-Mu'mineen, everything matches. It's impossible that for you to find a single act of, for example, hypocrisy, right? Opposite of sadaqa is hypocrisy, right? Hypocrisy is when it doesn't match. When what you say, it doesn't match your true personality. What you say doesn't match how you feel in your heart. What you say doesn't match how you're thinking. We have 3 different layers at least, right? One is the exterior, right? One will be the mind, one will be the heart. So for example, when you stand up for, for offering your salat, they say you shouldn't only focus on the pronunciation. That's wajib. You need to work on that. You have to work on the Arabic. You have to work on the, saying all the words like, correctly. But don't stop there. That's not everything. You have to work on your mind as well. You have to work on your heart as well, right? So this great story, you probably have heard of this great scholar, Shaykh Mutahari, right? He goes to one of the great scholars of the time, right? So he tells him, like, when you stand up to lead the prayer, or when you stand up to offer your prayer, what do you, focus on? What do you pay attention to? Shaykh Mutahari turns around and says, well, I focus on two things. Number one, the recitation of the ayahs that I'm reciting, how to pronounce it. And number two, the meanings of the ayah. Sounds pretty good, right? So when I say Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, I'm like repeating the meaning of the ayah to myself. Then this great person turned around and told him, so when do you actually pray? So it seems like, oh wow, there's a whole new difference here. When do you actually pray, right? He was saying when you stand up towards the Qibla, when you're standing up for the offering your prayer, your entire essence has to focus on God, right? Nothing else. And that's what we see when, for example, Imam Sajjal alayhi salatu wassalam, when he would, get ready to offer the prayer, performing a wudu, his, for example, tone of the face would actually change. He will faint in a sense, right? Or when he would stand up for prayer, he would just move around as if like this, dry wood being like moved around by wind, right? Is that, that greatness of Allah Almighty that's actually getting manifested in the heart of the Imam that makes them like, to change so much when the time of the prayer came. Now they're the Imams, of course, they're the leaders, but how much can we go? That's, depends on every person. And why are we saying this stuff? To say that we have to work on these other parts as well, right? Inshallah, everybody has the exterior, everybody knows the ahkam about salat, inshallah, right? So after that, you have to focus on, to concentrate a little bit, right? At least make sure this heart, it only focuses on one thing. They say we have one heart, and this one heart only accepts one thing at a time, right? So how can you have like all these different distractions once you stand up for offering your prayer? So you have to like get in a habit of trying to put everything aside, little bit by little, concentrate on one thing and one thing only. What is that? The niyyat that you have at the beginning of the salat. You say, I do 2 rak'ah, 3 rak'ah, 4 rak'ah. Then you say, qurbatan ilallah. What's the meaning of qurbatan ilallah? To get closer to God. How do you get closer to God? Right? I'll give you like a physical example. How do you get close to, for example, your family? How do you create a bond between the father and the children, right? The very first thing is you have to spend time. You have to communicate, right? You have to put up with each other for some time, little by little, little by little, little by little. That bond is going to get created. It's not going to happen with in an instant of time, right? It takes years, perhaps, to create that bond. So the same thing. We try to concentrate on something that we are perhaps a little bit strange to it. Why? Because we always had it in the back of our mind. We just would say, Allahu Akbar, get the salat over with, okay, I'm done, let's go back to our normal life. But now, when we hear all these stories from different ulamas, it tells us that, hey, this salat is a little bit different. What does the Quran says? It says, as-salatu tanha anil fahsha'i wal munkar. So this salat has this, capability. If it gets offered correctly, it's going to actually protect you from all the sins, all the rejections, right? All this, ignorance in a sense. So if you see that, all these different thoughts of, for example, na'udzubillah, sinning is coming to us and we cannot do anything, then it shows that there is something wrong when we are standing up to offer our prayer. So we have to do a little review. Start from the tahara, start from the exterior, start with the ahkam. But once you finish the ahkam, then move on to the mustahabbat and makruhat, right? The recommended action and the makruhat.
Everybody does here.
محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم.
Okay, let's recite the third salawat.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم.
James can go too.
So this is how a salat should be. And where is our salat? Everybody is the best judge about themselves. Because that's my second point, and I mentioned it briefly yesterday. That when we come, for example, to the movement of Ashura, we have all these different analyses, all these different judgments, all these different viewpoints, right? For every person, whether being a companion or being enemy or being, like, for example, neutral, we have, mashallah, all these books written, right? And that's part of it, like part of the, living, like, having that scientific approach. That's fine. I'm not saying anything bad about that. No, I'm saying when it comes to, like, learning from the past, we have to have this in mind, that if you were in their shoes, would have you, like, performed any better? And I'll give you a couple of examples last time, right? For example, we know that bribery is like haram, right? But I mentioned, imagine if someone comes up to you and offers you a great amount of money, right? Instead of giving you $100 to do something, he comes up and tells you, like, I'm going to give you $1 million right here, cash, no tax, right? So now what? Are you still going to say, oh no, my God is greater, or are you going to think about it? Now, what if you're in complete need of that money, and someone comes up to you and tells you, take this money. If you do this for me, I'll give you this amount of money, right? This is just one example. And for some people, as I mentioned, it's about fame, right? For some people, it's about power. It depends. It depends on personality. It depends on the characters they have. It depends on what they actually like. What are they, like, actually seeking for? Let's recite another salawat. If I can have the sisters move forward a little bit so we can.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
هدري
حسينيات حسينيات يزيديات يزيديات نعرة حيدري.
So let me have the brothers recite the salawat.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Let's have sisters recite the salawat. Let's have everybody recite the salawat.
نعرة تكبير.
الله أكبر.
نعرة رسالة.
يا رسول الله.
نعرة هدري.
هدري.
نعرة الصلوات.
Now, someone actually asked this question: why do we recite so many salawats? It's like so many answers for it, right? Now, I'll give you just one, is as a joke. They were saying that they took one of the Muslims and they started working on him, like, different workshops, different classes, different interfaith, different, like, lectures and classes, private teachings, and all this stuff to make him a Christian. At the end, they took him to the church. Apparently, like, the power went off. When the power came back up, he stood up and said, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Right? So this is our, like, we say it is the best prayer that one person can do, and in the like, as smallest and the shortest form. Right? So if you're looking for that extra, like, the best prayer of the prayer, right? And you want it, like, very simple. You want the lazy way like me. This salawat ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad, it is your answer.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
It seems like not everybody likes the lazy way, so let's recite salawat again. So we're talking about the companionship, right? Now I'll give you one more ayah. This is from the language of Prophet Abraham. It says, فَمَنْ تَبِعَنِي فَإِنَّهُ مِنِّي وَمَنْ عَصَانِي فَإِنَّكَ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. He mentions the same reasoning. Whoever follows me is with me. And whoever doesn't follow me, then he turns to God and says, oh Allah, you are the most merciful, you are the most, like, kind. Meaning that I don't know what's going to happen if they don't follow me. But whoever follows me is with me. Now, from this followance and companionship, we're going to find out that there is a very close link between how much we have, like, obedience and this spirit of submission. Al-Islam wa huwa taslim. Meaning that the religion of Islam is what? Is to submit yourself. To submit yourself to the will of God. So this submission is something that actually happens in our, soul level. It's a spiritual, right? Meaning that you have to come to this understanding that the only way, the true way, the Sirat al-Mustaqim, the only way that you're going to benefit from this world and the next world and all the stuff that we talk about, it comes down to one simple thing, meaning submission, right? But everybody has to reach that stage, right? The higher these feelings, the higher, of the submission we have, of course you see it in our actions as well, the more of the obedience we have. Because a lot of times what happens, a lot of people may obey, but the submission is not there. For example, if you get forced to attend the majlis, right? If you get forced to do your prayer, if you get forced to, for example, fast, because sometimes it happens, especially among the youth, and sometimes they come up to us and they actually tell us, they're like, Maulana, the reason I'm fasting right now is because if my father and mother find out that I'm not fasting, there's no dinner for me, right? For example, or there is no tablet for a couple hours, or there is no games for a couple hours. I'll be like, pretty much busted. So this is why I'm fasting. But this is not the way it should be, right? So we see the obedience. Obedience is there. He's doing his rituals. But because that spirit, that soul of submission is not there, it's not going to affect them the way it should be. Yes, of course, they have some benefits, right? We say whoever fasts, right? This doesn't have to do, for example, qada, right? So despite of their intention not being purely qurbatan Allah, and we're grateful that they're honest and they come out and they talk to us, it's good, right? But we say, he doesn't have to do qada, inshallah, God will accept it, right? But that's a different story. We're talking about this, finding the soul of submission. When the soul of submission comes in, then the entire obedience becomes sincere. So that's why when you look at the companions of, for example, Abu Abdullah was saying, a lot of times it's very hard to imagine that because, the most we can say is to put ourselves in that position, right? So the most we understand is up to the way or up to our level of knowledge. Like we have so much experience, we have so much information. That's how much we're going to understand from them. But a lot of times when you look at all the like historical reports, some of them were made by the enemies. So after the tragedy was done and over, they were asked like, how come you guys went so severely on the companions, for example, of Abu Abdullah? One of them turns around and says, do you guys know who you guys are talking about? You're talking about lions, and I wouldn't say lions, I really mean lions. The way they would hold on to the sword, it was as if you could not separate their hands from the sword. You could not get that sword away from them, no matter how hard you try. So the only way we had to actually, get this sword stopped was to actually cut off the arm, right? This is how they would attack us. That's why when you read the history of the Karbala, it's interesting. When they attack, the entire army moves back. One person, even logically, a lot of people say, how is this possible? Imagine one person attacking, the entire left wing is going to move back. The right wing comes forward, they attack the right side moves back. So they try to surround them, right? And a lot of times they tried throwing rocks and spears and arrows and all of stuff, so they would surround them and they would approach them and attack them, right? So this is how the companions were. But how is this possible with the normal logic? With the normal logic, when you go to battle, right, you always have this fear of your life, right? You always try to be extra cautious. You always try to find out a hideout spot. You try to surprise perhaps the enemy. This is the normal way of thinking. How can I go around or move around in order to get to my enemy? But when we look at the companions of Abu Abdullah, this logic changes. One of them, his name is Abbas, right? He was known as a brave man. So imagine he goes to a battlefield. No one dares to come up and fight him one-on-one. What does he do? He removes his shield. Who would do that, right? He removes his shield. It's like, now come and attack me. And they still do not come. They start throwing rocks at him. They start throwing so many rocks at him that he gets injured. Then they all of a sudden attack him at the same time. But still, they're not able to take him out. So it happens a couple of times until they're finally able to take him out of the picture. So who would do such a thing when it comes to battle one-on-one, right? Especially when you have only 72 people versus at least 30,000, let's say 20,000, but we have 30,000 actually in numbers. Or if it's 30,000 versus 72 people, how long would a battle take? If they just walk over the 72 people, it will be finished, right? So how come it takes all the way from the morning of Ashura, all the way go to the eve of Ashura? Seems like they couldn't just get everything finished with. And of course, from the enemy side, they had all this fear within their hearts because they knew who are they going against. right? They knew that whoever they're going to about to kill, it's not going to come off their hands that easily. It's not like a simple sin that you're just going to hope for the repentance. No, you're going against the progeny of the Ahlul Bayt, right? And I mentioned the hadith which Ibn Sa'd himself mentions, that I know it is haram, it is forbidden to just bother the progeny of Ahlul Bayt, let alone even thinking of for example, killing and fighting. So they had all this fear on one side, and you had all this courage on the other side, right? So they were saying, all these companions of Abu Abdullah, they would attack us as if there is no fear, absolutely no fear. And Imam Hussein mentions that, my companions are one of a kind. The history will not see them again, the future will not see them again. These are the most loyal, most courageous, most one of a kind companions that you cannot find in the history of mankind and even in the future, right? So here comes that difference, this companionship which we talk about, this souls getting connected, souls getting closer. And all of it starts with what? Submission. Following, that role model, right? So we have to work on that part as well. We have to work on to see and look at inside of ourselves. How much truly do we submit, right? And it's easy when it comes to the prayer when nobody's watching, not when you're at the majlis. When everybody comes to majlis, mashallah, everybody's good, right? Everybody's good. No, when nobody's watching, it's usually when you actually can find out how you really behave, right? Or when nobody's watching and you're a little bit tired. Usually the morning prayers are a very good example, right? Because the morning prayers at the time that everybody loves to sleep even more, right? And as you know, it is highly recommended to stay awake that between the time of the morning prayer all the way to the sunrise. So that hour and a half, it's the best time for a mu'min to stay awake. And they say all the rizq, all the provisions, right, gets distributed on that time. I'll give you an example. It's a very bad example, but Black Friday in the US. What happens? People line up. Why? Because they know once the store opens up, right, you gotta go and get your hand on whatever you want before it runs out, right? So imagine if it's only hour and a half in the day in which they distribute the provisions, right? How a mu'min should be eager and show enthusiasm towards staying awake, in that time. So that's how the mu'min should be. Then we can reflect on ourselves. How much do we like to stay awake, right? And a lot of us probably at work at that time. I don't know what time is there sunrise about 6 something here? 7. Alhamdulillah. So work on that one, right? When you get up, how much interest, how much eagerness do you have to actually stay awake and continue your, for example, ibadah? It doesn't have to even be doing all these salats. No, you can spend time contemplating on different stuff. You can get actually ready for your work. Just being awake in that time is going to have effects on your day. And try this one. We say it brings you barakah, right? It's hard to explain it in terms of logical pattern, right? But it brings you barakah. And that's the thing about a lot of teachings of Islam. For example, for the sleeping time, they say the best time to sleep is actually the very early hours of the night, not the later at nights, right? So you see, it's a whole lifestyle, all chains of different commands right after each other, right? And they all affect each other. So it tells you to stay, to get up earlier, right? Take a short nap right before the noon prayer, which is called the Qaylula, right? And then from that time, after the Maghrib and Isha, go to bed right away. Don't waste that much time. Then try to get up, again early the next day. This is just the sleeping, if you call it, in the system of Islam, right? Now, living in the West, a lot of people say, no, this is not possible with the lifestyle of the West. I lived here, I worked here. It is possible. You just have to manage it in a different ways. For example, get an early shift in your company, right? And it makes a lot of difference. You can try that one, inshallah. So this is just one of them, right? So we're talking about what? Submitting to the will of Allah Almighty. Recite a salawat again. Now, if we go one step after this, so now we're talking about the companionship, right? And I mentioned the companionship between, for example, the follower and the prophets, the followers and the Siddiqeen and the Shuhada and the Salihin. Now, what about these companionships between the follower and the Imam, right? Something that we all want. Don't we always say, Allahumma ajjil waliyika faraj, right? What is this prayer for? Is it for someone just to come out as a leader and then what else? right? It's not just for his reappearance that we are praying, right? It is something that the whole shift of bringing about the just government, right? That perhaps we're praying. And I raise this question: if you actually see, the Imam of our time, what would you ask? The very basic thing it is that we want to just be with you, right? The very minimum, the very minimum that everybody asks is like, we want to be with you. So this connection, right? Again, this companionship, it falls in the same rhythm. If you have that ita'ah, if you have that submission, if you have that obedience going along with that submission, you actually get a chance to actually move up so high that you get connected to your Imam as well. So one of the Urafa was saying this. He was saying that the eye that wakes up in the morning, right, and doesn't see his Imam of time, that eye is blind, even though he's be able to see the physical stuff, right? Talking about the hayatan tayyibah. Meaning that don't just focus on this, like alhamdulillah we can see all the stuff around us. No, he says the eye that opens up in the morning and doesn't see his Imam of time, that eye is blind, right? The ear that wakes up in the morning and doesn't hear, for example, the time of the prayer in reality, not the stuff that we recite, right? For example, that ear is deaf. We have all of these great narrations, true narrations from all these pious people, that they would tell when the time of the prayer would come without, for example, looking at the physical signs, right? So they were, for example, in a dungeon. In a dungeon, you don't have any access to the sun or the recitation of the sun or none of those stuff. But they would know when is the prayer, for example, the time of the praying, for example, for the morning, for the Zohar, for the Asr, for the Maghrib, and Isha. So these are all there, right? But then we have to make this move. They're not just going to give it to us, right? In this dunya, it's the same thing. If you want to have that, six-figure job, you have to make a move. You have to study hard. You have to give up a lot of stuff in order to what? To study good, graduate, and then what? Get a good job. The normal dream, right? So what do? You give up going out with your friends. You give up playing different games. You concentrate on your studies to make sure you get good grades. You get accepted to a good school. You get a scholarship. You graduate. Use the network. Get a good job. Inshallah, everybody's happy, right? So when it comes to religion, right? When God tells us, for example, put these actions aside, and this is what you will be granted. But when it comes to religion, we find out that we go shaky. We're like, I have to wear hijab, why? I have to do salat, why? I have to, for example, give up alcohol, why? I shouldn't listen to music, why? Why God, why? Why Islam should be so hard? You see, it's the same concept. You want to, for example, go to the gym. What a bodybuilder is going to tell you? If you want to have your body in form, you have to give up all this stuff. Then you have to exercise. That exercise is hard, right? You have to go, you have to spend time, you have to spend energy, you have to push yourself, right? And then from the other side, you have to give up so many things that you probably like on a normal basis, right? In order to get to that, goal that you have. Okay, so this is the word of a body trainer that's telling you that if you do this stuff, you're going to get there, for example, in this amount of time. We accept that from him, perhaps by reading a couple of reviews, and we trust him, right? We go to doctor. The doctor gives us a prescription, gives medicine. We don't even question, right? He says, okay, whatever you give me, I'll just take it. And he tells you, for example, every 6 hours, we never say, why 6 hours? Let me take it all at once. Has it crossed anybody's mind? Instead of taking this pill every 6 hours, I'm going to take all of it all at once, right? So why do we have to pray 5 times a day? God, I just want to do all of it at once. No, these are prescriptions, right? All of these deeds and rituals we do, it's for a greater purpose, right? وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. This لِيَعْبُدُونَ, we say it's in the form of mudara, which means it shows continuation. It's not just one instant. So when you stand up to offer your prayer, it's not to just get it over with. No, it is the duration of it. It is enjoyment of it. It is that love. They say worship, right? Don't think of it as something very difficult and hard. No, it's actually expressing your love towards your Creator. It's that one-on-one time, right? Imagine if you admire someone or something so much, and they give you a chance to actually spend some one-on-one quality time with that person or that thing. How would you spend it? Do you just say, salam and bye, hi and bye, or you try to stay there even longer, right? Imagine someone who's very dear comes up here, right? You try to even stay even longer in the majlis, right? Even if they want to push you out, they're like, okay, let me just stay a little bit longer. Because you have so much passion for that person who's in that majlis, right? So it has to be the same thing about our prayer. It has to be the same thing for our fasting. It has to be the same thing for our hajj. It has to be the same thing for our, forbiddance of evil and enjoyment of the good. Under the ma'ruf and nahi as munkar. It has to be the same thing for our, vilayat, right? The topic of vilayat. So, sallu ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad. Now let me give you one hadith and inshallah try to wrap it up tonight. We had this request to actually put more time on the Zikr Musibah as we're getting closer to Ashura inshallah. So ala aini, I'll do my best as much as possible. Ya Allah. سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم يقول إن الله تعالى خلقني وخلق عليا وفاطمة والحسن والحسين والأئمة عليهم السلام من نور. Holy Prophet of Islam says that indeed Allah the Almighty subhanahu wa ta'ala created me and created Aliyan, Fatima, والحسن والحسين والأئمة عليهم السلام من نور واحد. Allah Almighty created me, Imam Ali, Imam Hassan, Lady Fatima al-Zahra, and the Aimma, right? Kullahum, all of them from same light. فَعَسَرَ ذَلِكَ النُّورُ عَسْرَةً فَخَرَجَ مِنْهُ شِيعَتُنَا. Then Allah Almighty sort of squished that light, try to make it concentrate that light, made it into a package. From the remaining of that light came about our Shias, our followers. فَسَبَّحَنَا وَسَبَّحُوا. So we actually praised God, and they followed us and they praised God. وَقَدَّسَنَا وَقَدَّسُوا وَهَلَّلَنَا فَهَلَّلُوا. We started, for example, admiring God, they followed us and they admired God. We start saying La ilaha illallah, they followed and they said La ilaha illallah. وَمَجَّدْنَا فَمَجَدُوا. We started talking about all this manifestation and greatness of God, and they did the same thing. وَحَدَّنَا فَوَحَّدُوا. We became monotheism, and they became monotheist as well, right? We had the Tawheed, they become Muwahid, right? So talking about this obedience, but the obedience that comes with that, soul of submission. Then Imam continues, he starts talking about the Shias. He gets in details. Because when you search this, codes, that what are the signs or characteristics of the Shia? MashaAllah, we all have this label of the Shia, inshallah, will be true Shias. No, but you want to make sure that you're true. You just don't have the label, because later on we're going to find out when it's too late, right? So when you search this, for example, what are the signs of Shia? Again, there's a lot of characteristics, right? And perhaps a lot of you know some of them. For example, wearing the ring on the right, hand, going to the Ziyarat al-Arba'in, right? But not all of them, as what we see, are the primary signs. You have to put all these riwayas together, right? So we say some of the signs that you read in the hadith, like you find online, it is exclusive for a specific time, right? Some of them are general, some of them are actually changes from person to person, right? And then again, those which are general, then it depends on the level of the Shia, right? Not all the Shias are the same, of course, right? People have different levels. So here we have to be a little bit careful about that. I had this very lengthy hadith, but I think my time is up. I'll just give you one characteristics for tonight, and inshallah, remaining for the upcoming nights. The first one is the character of tawadu, humbleness, right? And what is this tawadu? Tawadu comes from wada. Wada means to put something in its place, right? They use it, for example, even when a woman actually gives birth to a child, they say she had a vazar. She gave birth to a child. This is the literal meaning of it, right? But when you come to akhlaq, religion is divided, at least one of the things is divided to three parts. One ahkam, then you have the culture of Islam, or Islamic culture, which we call it ethics and manners, akhlaq. Then of course you have the theology, taqadat, or beliefs, right? And I mentioned this the other night. On ahkam, our duty is pretty clear. You have to find out who's your marja. You have to find out the alam and atqa, the person who's most knowledgeable and who's most pious. You find that, you just follow them, right? So your responsibility, main responsibility is to find that person and to find out what's the hujj for you. That's for ahkam. When you come to akhlaq and the beliefs, it's a little bit different. In akhlaq, you also need someone that's going to actually lead you, right? You need a teacher in that part. And when it comes to the beliefs, then it's mostly on your own shoulder. You need some sort of consultation. Like how should I go about this? If I'm like unsure about Tawheed, what can I do? If I'm unsure about for example, the prophecy of the prophethood, what should I do? If I'm unclear about the imamah, the topic of imamah, the justice and the ma'ad, the resurrection, how should I go about this, right? So that's when it actually brings up the topic of Islamic education. MashaAllah, we have a great center here. Name is honored, the Unity Center, alhamdulillah. But my dear brothers and sisters, if this center is going to be like, running like this, alhamdulillah, all, crowded only on the Moharram and the month of Ramadan, what about the remaining of the years? We talk about, being constant, right? Continuously, working on this one. But if you do not give this education, the other parties, they're not going to, stand back, right? I call this cell phones and tablets and the TVs, like the PhD of advertising and actually implementing, different ideas in people's mind, right? And then how much time do we spend with this? Not only ourselves, but even our children, right? So the very first thing a person or parents may do is like when they get tired, it's like, okay, here's your tablet, go and play. Or you go and turn on the TV, right? But the programs that we see on the TV, don't take them like lightly. Don't say, oh, it's a cartoon, it's animation. No, if you look at like how much time and effort they have put into it, how much like different teams have been like putting ideas into it, just to make it simple, like for example, animation. And you see the results, right? For example, after 10 years, after 15 years, after 20 years, you see all the values that has been like formed in your child comes from, for example, Hollywood, right? So you see all these values that goes against whatever that we have been like talking and discussing. But now we want to change it. Is it that easily to change someone who's like actually been fed for 15, 20 years? It's not going to be that easy. So we have to plan ahead, right? Inshallah. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Ya Allah. Alhamdulillah, mashallah, so much passion and love in this center. Our brothers who recited the Noha, great job. Let me just try to continue on my behalf. Now, one of the relationships that's very hard to actually talk about and to get a taste of it, it's a relationship between father and son. Now, when we talk about this relationship, they say you will not understand it unless if you become a father yourself, and of course, if you actually lose a dear like son of yours, especially being the firstborn. Alhamdulillah, some of us have been to Karbala. Some of us have gone to that beautiful shrine of Imam Hussein. Once you enter, once you make that right turn, there is this part of it that sort of gets a little bit smaller. They say that's a grave of Ali Akbar. You go there, you stand there, and you feel this a little bit like a different sense of emotions in yourself. You're like, this front is a little bit different because you're sort of like saying your salams to both Imam and his son at the same time. So what's happening between Imam Hussein and Ali Akbar? They say whatever emotions we have towards our family members, multiply that by 100 times, by 1,000 times, because we're talking about a perfect human, right? Imam being a perfect human, right? For that amount, his emotions, his feelings towards his relatives is going to increase. So let's say if I love my son, for example, 100%, the Imam's love and passion towards his son is perhaps 1,000,000 times, right? That's how the difference of Imam is when we make that comparison, because he's a perfect human. When it comes to those, expressing those emotions, that's why you see, for example, in some cases of Abdullah starts crying, and we read about it, it's like, how can you even cry about this? And all this stuff happened. When we talk about Imam al-Ma'asum, it's just a totally different story. And from the other side, Ali Akbar, he's not just a normal child. In our own normal lives, when you look at the families, in every family you can find this one person that he or she is a little bit different. Everybody tends to like him or her, is a favored one, right? So they're always asking, what about him, what about her, what's new with him, what's new with her, right? All these years that he or she's growing up, they're expecting good things to happen to her or him. And usually are those pious ones as well, right? So the Aliyah Akbar, who is Aliyah Akbar? Is the one which Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam himself says that I'm sending someone to the battlefield who is the closest looking to the Prophet from the facial wise and character wise. We have in the riwayahs a lot of times that when they would actually miss the Holy Prophet of Islam, they would tell, oh Ali Akbar, can you just walk in front of us? He would walk in front of the people, in front of the Ahlul Bayt, and they would remember the Holy Prophet walking. He would talk, they would remember the Holy Prophet of Islam talking. He would recite the Quran, they would remember the Holy Prophet reciting the Quran. At the noon of Ashura, Imam Hussein asked him, oh Ali Akbar, go ahead and recite Azan. All in front of all these Kufans, right? So they realized, like, who is this person who looks so much like Holy Prophet of Islam? His sound, the way he recites Azan, as if the Holy Prophet of Islam is standing here reciting the Azan. So this is Aliyah Akbar that we're talking about it tonight. So think about that relationship between father and son. Think about that relationship that Ali Akbar had with the entire family of the Ahlul Bayt. Think about of all these different responsibilities that was on his own shoulder. We don't hear much from Ali Akbar during all these times. In a couple of different spots, he actually comes out and he mentions something which have been narrated in the history. One of them is a couple of days before they actually enter Karbala. It's where they actually come to this land, and then the Imam Hussein tells everybody to go ahead and pick up extra water. At that time, they narrate that Imam Hussein sleeps for takes a nap for a second. When he wakes up, he says, Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. And then he repeats it 3 times. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Alhamdulillah. We are from God, and to Him we shall return. All praises, all thanks to be God. Then Ali Akbar comes up to his father. Oh my dear father, imagine if your own father starts saying this zikr, Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. You as a son, would you go and say, okay, why are you saying this? This is the zikr we say when someone's about to pass away. Ali Akbar comes up to Imam Hussein and says, oh father, how come I see you repeating this zikr, this Inna lillah 3 times? Something happened? He said, yes, I had this vision. I had this vision that was talking to me about these people coming and the death coming after them. They're trying to go, and they're actually going towards the death. They're embracing death. I figured out that it is about us, it is about our Qaraban. And I figured that this the way we're going, there is no return. Let's go forward. Let's go to the day of Ashura. Little by little, right? Companions go one by one, one by one, one by one. There is no more companions left. The Bani Hashim, they look around, there is not a single loyal soldier to actually go and sacrifice their life. So now it's the turn of Bani Hashim. The very first person who comes up and stands up from the Bani Hashim is Ali Akbar. But now how is he going to say his farewell? How is he going to say his Khada Hafizi? How is he going to say goodbyes? Not only to Imam Hussein, but to the women and children as well. We have it in the narrations that the minute even the women and children sense that it is the time for Ali Akbar to go, this whole movement of emotions started happening in the tents of Abu Abdullah. It was very difficult for them to say, goodbye, O Ali Akbar. They couldn't say. They were saying, oh Ali Akbar, don't go to the battlefield. Just, walk a little bit more. Let us take a look at you one more time. Recite something for us. Tell us a hadith. Tell us something. Give us something so we can remember all those memories. Oh Ali Akbar, don't leave us like this. A lot of children, they were actually looking up to Ali Akbar. Every time everything would get hard, they would get difficult, they would look up to Ali Akbar. Now it's his turn to go to the battlefield. He calms all the women and children. Now he goes towards his father. Now imagine what's happening in the heart of Abu Abdullah Hussein. Imagine your firstborn son comes up to you. You watched him grow all your life. You had great hopes for him. To the point that even Muawiyah, la'natullah alayhi, when he was asked, who do you think is the more suitable person for Khilafah? He said, Ali ibn Hussein ibn Ali, meaning Ali Akbar. They asked him why? Because he said, You know, even the, like, you know, as I said, the facial wise, he looks like Holy Prophet. And when you look at his characteristics, it is like as if it is Holy Islam. Even the enemy has acknowledged how great Ali Akbar is. So this young fellow, this youth, comes up to his father, asking for permission. Oh, father, do you have the permission to actually go on the battlefield and give up my life just for the support of my Imam's life? They have it in Maqatil, that whoever would come up to the Imam was saying to ask permission, Imam would hesitate a little bit. He would think a little bit. He would, as if like he's trying to give them a second chance to, you know, come back or get out of whatever they had request for. After thinking or after taking some time, he would give them the permission to go to battlefield. When Ali Akbar comes, Imam immediately responds to him, go my son, you have my permission, you have my blessing, go to the battlefield. But what's happening as Ali Akbar turns around and enters the battlefield? What's happening with Imam Hussein's heart? If he's getting on the horse, Imam's heart is popping out of his chest. If he's heading out towards the battlefield, Imam's heart is beating harder and harder every second. La ilaha illallah. He goes towards the battlefield. He starts reciting. He starts introducing himself to the enemies. أنا علي بن الحسين بن علي. I am Ali, the son of Hussein, the son of Ali. نحن وبيت الله أولى بالنبي. By God, we are the worthy ones of the Nabi. من شباب وشمر ذلك الدليل. وضربكم بالسيف حتى ينثني. From Shabath and Shimr, that wicked man, I will use my sword so much till it bends and curves. ضرب قلام حاشمي علوي ولا أزال اليوم حميا عبي. Striking with the sword of a Hashemi youth, descendants of Ali. I constantly support my father today. تالله لا يحكم فينا ابن الدعي. By God, the adulterate Ibn Ziyad must not rule among us. Ya Allah, گمان مدار که گفتم برو دل از تو بریدم. This is what Abu Abdullah is saying, perhaps. He said, don't think, oh Ali, when I told you to go right away, it is as if I removed my feelings, I cut off from you. نفس شمرده زدم همراهت پیاده دویدم. I took my breath one at a time as you were heading towards the battlefield. And I actually walked as you were going on the horse. محاسنم به کف دست بود و اشکم به چشم. I was holding my beard while my tears was in my eyes. گهی به خاک فتادم گهی ز جای پریدم. Sometimes I was leaning on the ground, sometimes I was jumping around to see what's happening. Oh, Abu Abdullah, sallallahu alayka ya Abu Abdullah. They say there is not much difference between the Tal Zainabiyya and where the Qatl-Gah is. Those who have gone to Karbala, they have seen it. When you go on the Tal Zainabiyya, you can see everything from there. So Imam Hussein is standing there. He's looking at his brave son fighting and battling the enemy. And he's actually saying, MashaAllah, Subhanallah, Jazakallah. As Amir Ali Akbar is making his way through, he's actually motivating and praising him. They say Ali Akbar attacks the enemy multiple times. Some has reported up to 12 different times. He killed close to 120 people based on some of the reports. But then all of a sudden, out of all of this, in the middle of all of this, Ali Akbar makes a return towards his father. Oh, Baba, what's going on? Imam al-Hussein is looking at his son coming back to him. What's happening? My son is coming to me, right? Baba, 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 what's going on, Baba John? He comes up to Imam al-Hussein, he says, وَلَا تَشْمُ قَتَلَنِي يَا أَبَا عَبْدِ اللَّهِ. Oh Baba, oh Baba, the thirst is killing me. The thirst has taken my power. The thirst is bothering me. The shield is heavy on my body. We know as you take hit, as you get wounded, the very first thing you want is water. They say when Muhammad ibn Hanafiya was fighting in the battle of Siffin, Amir al-Mu'mineen used to send him to attack the left side. Then he would come back, he would ask for water because he was wounded. Ibn Abbas says when he came back to Amir al-Mu'mineen gave him some water, and then the remaining of water he poured it between his skin and his shield. I could see the bloods coming out of his shield. Then he told him to go back and attack the end of the army. He came back, the same thing happened. Then he told him to go back and attack the right side of the army. He went back and he came back, asked for asked for water. Amir al-Mu'mineen gave him water. Then at the end, Muhammad ibn Hanafi was crying. Imam Ali told him, why are you crying, O Muhammad? Is it out of joy or is it out of sadness? He says, I'm crying because I see you send me to attack the army, but you don't send the Hassan and Hussein to attack the army. I don't know why. Amir al-Mu'mineen tells him, be patient, my son. You are my son. These two are the sons of Lady Fatima al-Zahra. Now let's go to Ashura. Here comes Ali Akbar to his father. Oh, Baba, the thirst is killing me. I cannot bear this pressure of being thirsty. This shield, this armor is heavy on me. Oh, Baba, do you have any water for me? Now imagine what happens if your son comes up to you and asks you for something, and you have absolutely no choice, no power, no options to provide that. How would you answer that? You cannot say, oh, I can't. You cannot look at your eyes. You cannot look at your son in the eyes. You cannot say, okay, I will give you later. You cannot lie to him. Do you understand? Oh, Abu Abdullah. Abu Abdullah turns around and tells his son, my son, be patient, be patient. It is soon that you will be actually given water by your ancestor, by the Holy Prophet. Then it gets very close. Imam Hussein hugs Ali Akbar. Those who have gone to Karbala, ay Ashaqa, when you go to Karbala, the first time you go to the holy shrine of Imam Hussein, the first time you kiss that shrine, you don't want to let go. You just want to stay there. Now imagine what will be to be embraced and hugged by Abu Abdullah. Imam Hussein hugs his son Ali Akbar. He puts his tongue in the mouth of Ali Akbar to say, take a look at my own thirst. The reverse happened. Once Abu Abdullah does this, Ali Akbar gets all this energy. It's like, there is not a single moist on the tongue of my father. How is he able to give me water in this part? He says, I am good. He turns around. He goes back to the battlefield. He starts fighting again. He starts fighting again. They say the count of the number reaches up to 200. And all this time, Abu Abdullah Hussein is looking from the back. Then they finally attack him. One person attacks him with a spear, hits him on the side. The minute he gets hit on the side, he remembers Lady Fatima al-Zahra. He says, oh grandmother, now I understand what does it mean to actually get hit on the side. Another person comes up, hits Ali Akbar on the head. And then he says, oh Amir al-Mu'mineen, now I know how did it feel on the Laylatul Qadr. Then they start attacking Ali Akbar. He had killed about 200 of them. So you could see the swords going up and coming down. Swords going up and coming down. The Mabatil says, they chopped them to pieces. Pieces to pieces. Erban, erba, erban, erba. Ya Abu Abdullah, you see. Imam Hussein looking at this. Then he hears the last words of the Ali Akbar. Assalamu alayka ya Abu Abdullah. My salam be upon you, oh my dear father. I got my glass of water from the Holy Prophet, and he has reserved one glass just for you. They say Imam Hussein went to heaven, but how did he go? How did he move this distance? I have no idea. But the one is recorded is when he gets close to Ali Akbar, when he gets close to the body of his son, the first thing he does, he hugs the body of Ali Akbar. But that's not enough. He lays the body down, he puts the head on his lap. But that's not enough. He lays the body completely on the ground. He kneels on the ground. He goes to sujood. And then he puts his face right next to the face of Ali Akbar. This prostration, this motion takes such a long time that the enemy thinks that Abu Abdullah Hussein has passed away. They start doing halala. They start saying that we're victorious. Then comes Lady Zainab out of the tent. How much a woman can actually take on a emotion. She comes on, she sees the body of Ali Akbar right there in the Qatlagar. She runs towards the Qatlagar. She goes, she embraces the body of Ali Akbar, Abu Abdullah, the Ghayratullah. He takes Lady Zainab by the arms. He's bringing her back to the tent. Hey, Javan of the Bani Hashim, oh the youth of Bani Hashim, bring the body of my son back to the tent. La ilaha illallah. Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. على الأرواح التي حلت بثنائك عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إنا نسألك وندعوك باسمك العظيم الأعظم العز الأجل الأكرم إلهي بحق محمد وعلي وفاطمة والحسن والحسين وتسعة المعصومين من ذرية الحسين يا الله يا يا رحمن يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك واكفنا يا قاضي الحاجات انك على كل شيء قدير. Oh Allah, we ask you humbly, such a blissful night, to hasten the appearance of our Imam Zaman. Oh Allah, give us the tawfiq to be part of his companions. Oh Allah, give us the tawfiq to be true Shias and followers of the school of the Faith. Oh Allah, we ask you humbly to forgive all of our past sins. Oh Allah, we ask you humbly to forgive and have mercy on all of our past ones. Oh Allah, we ask you for cure of our sicknesses and illnesses. Oh Allah, we ask you for cure for all of our relatives who are coming up with illnesses and sicknesses. Oh Allah, such a blissful night, we'll ask you to give us the tawfiq of the ziyarah of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam. Oh Allah, give us his intercession in the hereafter. Oh Allah, we'll ask you humbly to protect our children. Oh Allah, we'll ask you humbly not to take us from this world if you're completely happy and satisfied with all of our actions. Let's take the time, it's a night of Friday, let's remember all the hajat, all the requests that you have, every prayers that you have. Let's recite the holy verse of Amal Yajib all together 5 times. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء 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 بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه
وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وعطايا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه مكانا وتمشاه فيها فيها اللهم صل على
Just before the Moharram, I have quick 3 announcements, which I did in the beginning, but for the Mu'mineen who came in yet, may Allah give us tawfiq to participate in the water project, where poor Muslims, across our countries, Muslim countries, where they can get access to pure clean water. We have made 5 water pumps last year. Each water pump costs $300. So please open your pockets, and we have a donation box there. Please give it there, put your donation there. Blood drive, please participate in the blood drive on the name of Imam Hussein. It's on Saturday, day after tomorrow. There is a sign-in sheet, time, just pick up your time, write it. Lastly, I will say, our own Unity Center